We are in the month of October, and October reminds us of Zambian independence. And it's about our people being free from colonial enslavement. And the word that comes is patriotism, that love, that devotion, the sense of attachment to one's country. Patriotism is what energized liberation. Today, a lot of the problems that we are facing can only be addressed if we are patriotic to this country. And the country is about the people. And we have President Dr. Fred Membe with us, a great patriot, and this is a conversation that is best suited for you. Patriotism.
For us, patriotism does not mean love for the Muchinga escarpment, love for the Balozi Plains, love for Lake Kariba, Lake Bangweru, Lake Mweru, the Ruapula River, the Chambeshi River, Lake Tanganyika,
the fish, the wild animals.
The fish, the wild animals in the Kafue National Park, Mfue National Park, and so on. It means love for the people. When you love the people, you defend them. You defend their rights. You defend their dignity. You defend their humanity. You defend their well-being and promote it. When you love the people, you will not accept them to be humiliated. When you love the homeland, the country in which you were born, or the country you have made your homeland, your home, you will not accept that country to be colonized, to be neo-colonized, to be humiliated, subjugated, exploited. You will defend its dignity. That's what a patriot does.
That's it.
How do you defend it? You defend it with everything that you have.
Including your life.
Including your own life. A country that is dominated by another country, a country that is subordinated to another country, a country that is subjugated by another cannot be independent, cannot be sovereign. And if it cannot be independent and not sovereign, it means also it cannot be democratic. A country that is dictated to by another or others can't chart its own path. Its people can't decide freely. Its leaders become puppets.
So if your leader is a puppet of imperialism, of colonial masters, that's being unpatriotic.
You can't be a puppet and be a patriot. A patriot exhibits the highest forms of independence. A patriot is dictated to by the interests of the people, the will of his own people.
Yakosa nkani kambani kwa mchibemba timvera hapo pankani hapo.
Obuntungwa bulete ekibote. Obuntungwa bulete omukinshi. Obuntungwa bulete obuyantanshi. Ngata muleiteeka muleeteekwa. Abale emiteeka balayikala bwino okukira imwe
bamuyisa.
Abateeka ilingi balekala bwino, abateekwa ilingi balachula. tamwabo omukinshi mukuteekwa especially kuli bamwisa before bamwisa okwisa muno mukyalo kino twale iteeka leero tuleeteekwa bamwisa abale tuteeka baleekala bwino okukira ifwe abaleeteekwa to restore our dignity we had to get our independence.
Exactly.
Without independence there can be no dignity. Our parents, our grandparents, great-grandparents fought for that independence.
They loved the country. They loved the people of the country.
They were patriots. And because they were patriots, we socialists recognize them as revolutionaries.
Wonderful.
We socialists, sometimes we mistakenly we think we are the only revolutionaries. We are not the only revolutionaries. Anyone who sacrifices himself or herself for the independence, for the sovereignty, for the dignity of his homeland, of his people, is a revolutionary.
Exactly. So, if you're a puppet, you can't be a patriot. And your sense of attachment to that country is questionable.
A puppet is committed to those who are pulling that string.
To the paymaster.
A puppet is on the string. His commitment or her commitment is to the one who's pulling the string, not to the people.
Muzungwani konde.
You are working for the puppet, for the puppet master. You are not working for the people. Your decisions, your actions do not start from the interests of the people and end with the interests of the people. They start from the interests of the master and end with the interests of the master.
Your budget will be about foreign direct investment. Your policies about mining will be about investors coming from outside. Everything you do will be first of all Muzungwanga and Konde.
Your political songs, your economic songs, your social songs will be in praise of the master, the puppet master. That's what you pray to. Even your God becomes secondary. You cannot worship your God freely if you are not a free person. You cannot truly love your God if you are subjugated.
And in turn, your slave master also reciprocates, says you are a good president, you are a good minister of finance.
You get excited by praising. They call you to Washington to praise you, to give you all sorts of stupid awards, and you get excited. That have been recognized by the master.
International.
Yes. You don't even regard the feelings of your people. You don't even regard the criticism or praise from your people as anything that really matters. What matters is what the master says to you.
Can you be a corrupt leader and still be a patriot?
A thief cannot be a patriot, period.
Mutiuze ukamena nakamba Samora Machel itakani ya comrade.
President Machel, Comrade Samora, used to say, you socialists, you Mozambicans, you Frelimo members, sometimes you shock me. Some of you come to me and say, Comrade thief has stolen from me. How can a thief be a comrade? How can a thief be a patriot? How can even be a thief be a member of Frelimo, for that matter? You cannot be a thief, someone who is stealing from your people, and claim to be a patriot. If you steal from someone, your love from for that person has diminished. Exactly. You don't have love. You can't steal from someone you love and send them to their early graves. You steal money that is meant for their medicines. You steal money that is meant for their education. You steal money that is meant for their food.
At Obama Mwiwa.
Tepambale. Tepambale. Ubutungulushi tepambale. You are dealing with people's lives. You are dealing with a nation's destiny. It's a high responsibility. It's a responsibility of the highest trust. And it has to be exercised with maximum respect, maximum honesty.
So there's this culture in politics that you have to use imingalato, that you have to lie, that's part of political culture.
How can you lie to someone you love? How can you lie to someone you respect? How can you lie to someone you care for that much? Lying to someone, in my view, is a sign of lack of respect for that person. It's a sign of lack of love for that person. And also it's a sign of lack of personal dignity. One who respects himself, one who is not a puppet, who has got his feet on the ground, cannot lie. If you are proceeding from the position of the people and you are ending from the position at the position of the people, you can't lie to the people. Because everything that you do starts from the people's interests and ends with the people's interests. You can't lie to them.
And we lie to win power. Once we get in power, then things will resolve themselves.
If you lie before you are in power, you lie when you are in power.
To cover up.
And you lie even when you are out of power. Those who lied to the Zambian people before they got into power, they are still lying to them. And they will lie to them after. And they are not just lying to them, they are also lying about them. They are lying about the people.
So given that, it looks like part of the biggest problems we face in Zambia with the leadership that we have had is that we don't have patriots taking over positions of leadership.
Without patriotism, there can be no loyalty. There can be no honest leadership. There can be no caring leadership. You have vampires. You have vultures as leaders.
Scavengers.
Yes. Jackals as
Parasites.
leaders. Inda as leaders sucking your blood. Though Inda cannot be your leader.
And they say that's the culture, that's the politics that's needed.
That's not leadership. That's not the politics we need. We say an individual does best in a decent society with the standards, common aims, and values. There are ethics to be adhered to in a decent society. There are do's and don'ts in a decent society. In a decent society, you are told thou shalt not steal. In a decent society, you are told thou shalt not lie. In a decent society, you are taught that thou shalt not kill.
And to amplify this issue, you have always talked of how political leadership attracts some of the West in society, and why there has to be inclusive governance if at all the issue of patriotism has to come in.
If you're a patriot, you can't monopolize anything that should be social. You can't monopolize power. You can't monopolize leadership. This country has many leaders. Our nation has many leaders more than the politician. The politician is not the only leader of our people. There are many other authentic leaders of our people. We have the traditional leaders. These are leaders who were there before the politician emerged in this territory. We had no politicians until the early 50s or so. There were no politicians. Who was there leading our people? It was the traditional leader and the spiritual leaders, or what we would call today religious leaders. These are authentic leaders of our people. You don't need to like them to recognize that they are leaders, the traditional leaders. You don't need to be a believer to recognize that the religious leaders are leaders of our people. Even if you don't go to church, you don't believe in any religion, if you are an honest human being, you will realize that these are authentic leaders of our people. We have the business people, they are also leaders of our people. There are so many people they lead to produce goods and services for our people. We have people in the military, in the police, in the intelligence,
Civil society.
civil society. These are our leaders. Trade unionists, these are our leaders. Those in the cooperatives, these are also leaders. In short, we have many more other leaders than the politician. And the politician is not necessarily the best of all these leaders. When we choose traditional leaders, we choose village headmen, we choose chiefs in our families, in our clans. Usually we choose the best people. The best people in the moral sense, the best people in terms of love for the people, in terms of understanding the territory where the people live. Pakupianike mfumo, tusale mpanda, tupianike mpanda. Ishi aitemwesha abantu, ishi aishibe ekyalo, ishi ngasunga abantu, evo tupianika pabufumu. When we choose religious leaders, also we choose the best members of our families in the moral, in the ethical sense. The most honest members of our families. Those are the ones we make priests. Those are the ones we make pastors. Those are the ones we make reverends. Filefiso ashala. Muluku wasiyezu wale, which we have thrown.
Kama fereza.
Kona follow no pa ma politicians. Epo tusala ama politicians. And the West of us, the West of our leaders, they are the ones we put in front.
And they monopolize power.
And they monopolize power. Everyone has to kneel to them. Basanguka bakateka veka. Even the chiefs kneel before them. Everybody is patronizing them. They are the center of patronage.
So no wonder we have less patriotism. You mentioned also the issue of business leaders. So business leaders, we have heard from time to time that you don't need to be a patriot for you to succeed in business. As a Socialist Party, our stand is very different. And worldwide, a true entrepreneur is going to defend the place where he or she makes money. A true entrepreneur has got roots, because these are the roots that give you the education, the social capital that you have. It's that country that organizes the credit facilities that are there, that gives you a home, the warmth for you to be able to succeed. And your first allegiance is to where you are. So if you have business people that are not patriotic, they can sell your country. If you have business leaders that think of the outside first before they think of the country, you are in big problems. Countries that have done well in business, that have created a capitalist class, they always had patriotic people in business creating wealth, and that wealth managed to circulate within that economy. If you are a business person and you feel like your money belongs to the Bahamas or to Panama or somewhere else, that's where you're going to hide your money, you are not patriotic. So patriotism does not just apply to the politicians, but it also applies to the business people. If you are patriotic as a business person, you treat your workers differently. Your workers are the ones that help you to create value. And as they create that value, that business can prosper. People managed badly will destroy your business. So a sense of patriotism is also to the people that are with you, the people that surround you, and you are on one mission to create value, to improve that business. We are losing it even in business, the sense of patriotism.
A patriotic businessman first you will recognize that the money he or she has come from the people. Without the people, you can't be a businessman. You can't succeed. The people are your workers. The people are your customers. The people are the providers of capital. The capital that you have accumulated has come from the people. You have used their money, their little money here and there to make money. A patriotic businessman loves his people, respects his people. And respecting his people also means loving your homeland. The homeland that has given you an opportunity to succeed.
Exactly.
To excel above others.
Exactly.
To win the recognition and respect of others.
Exactly.
So, we as a socialists, we have respect and we have a place for patriotic businessmen. They are leaders of our people and we recognize them as such and accord them the respect that any other leader is accorded. They help in the creation of material wealth. They help in the generation of services required by our people. We are not hateful of them. We are not envious of them. We are there to support them. We are there to help them in solidarity with them and with our people who they represent.
Wonderful. But also going to the other side, a worker, an employee that doesn't do their job properly. The one that absconds from work for nothing, the one that steals from work, the one that does not improve the quality of work, where productivity is very low and so forth. But at the end of the month, they are queuing to be paid. And we have talked about this in terms of the poor quality of our workforce in Zambia, the mentality of our workforce in Zambia, where today, when you want to employ somebody, at times you would prefer to work with a Zimbabwean to do your tiling, you would want to work with a Congolese to do some bit of work for you, than your fellow Zambian. The work ethics are very poor. And also we have not invested in them enough to be able to produce the quality products, the quality work that we need of them. Self-organization is zero. You turn your back from a certain piece of work, then your people also are not there. They want you to give instructions, they want you to monitor them, and so forth and so forth. We have one of the worst work cultures worldwide, and we are not proud of that. And it's a serious problem that is going to affect even the Socialist Party government. And we
legitimate reasons not to be able to contribute adequately to the collective good should get nothing. We don't leave them. Those who are drowning, we lift them up.
Resuscitate them.
We resuscitate them, we carry them on. No one is left
behind
to die.
Even when you are mentally or you are not in the right frame, we find ways of rejuvenating you.
We are there to help each other.
We are each brother's keeper.
Truly.
Let's talk about the youth a little bit, and it worries me. You and I, during our times, patriotism was like what we breathed. As soon as we talked of Zambia, just the national anthem, Stand and Sing of Zambia, it went into the spinal cord. You felt like this is it, and you stood there whenever the national anthem was being played. It touched you emotionally.
We went on attention.
Exactly.
Yes. Wherever you are, you went on attention.
And to be told this is for Zambia, this is for Zambia, this is for the public, it was like an honor. It was like a pride of every Zambian youth.
We sang and stood proud.
And we meant it also. Every word counted to us.
We felt it. We felt it. We felt the national anthem was ours. We felt the country was ours.
It was our duty to do something for
and we loved our leaders.
Exactly.
Who gave us that country.
The education they gave us.
The country they gave us, the homeland they gave us, the sense of dignity they gave us. We are no longer singing God Save the Queen.
Save the Queen.
We are now singing Stand and Sing of Zambia, proud and free.
The land of work and joy, eh?
In unity.
In unity.
Africa is our own
motherland,
fashioned with and blessed by God's good hand.
What can beat that? Because the young people have been reduced to that.
If you can't love a Zambian, how can you love an African? How can Africa be your motherland when Zambia is not your motherland?
So
if you don't feel Zambia owes you anything, how can Africa owe you anything?
So patriotism is also attached to the social, material benefits people get from their country. When that is there, you create patriots. When you starve people, when you don't take care of the economy, you create people that are not patriotic.
What people are fighting for is not ideas in our heads. They are fighting for material benefits. They are fighting to live better for themselves, their children, and their children's children. When that is not there, the sense of dignity also diminishes. And when the sense of dignity diminishes, the love for their fellow human beings
also goes down.
Diminishes.
It becomes self-centered.
When you don't love your fellow human being, you can't love the territory.
You can't even love yourself. So this is serious because the youths, these are the ones that are taking over this country. They are the leaders of this country. They are the majority in this country. And if the sense of patriotism is being questioned amongst the majority of the youth, what future does this country have?
Zero. Or negative future.
So again, it's a scaring prospect when you have a country, a system that dehumanizes its own citizens, where a child, a young person who has been at school, leaves school, gets into college and comes back and has no prospects for ever getting a job. That country has not worked out a system that gives dignity to its young people. Even when you get a job, the pay that you have does not enable you to rent a house. Even when you get a job, the pay that you get is maybe sufficient to take you back to work and continue working, but not even enough to eat, to feed yourself. When you have such an economy, when you have such a society, and then on the other hand, you see the so-called leaders, they're becoming richer and richer. They're becoming the biggest business persons. Somebody gets into politics today, and within 4 or 5 years, they are said to be the richest Zambians alive. That takes away the glue. It takes away the energy that builds patriots. So the problems of the youth cannot be divorced from failed leadership. And if leadership is not able to deal with the youth, to culture the youth, to love the Zambian people, it's a disaster. It's a time bomb. Any society survives on continuation. Every society survives on a generation contract. One generation takes that baton in a relay and hands over to the next generation. And the glue that ties them is patriotism. And when that is no longer there, that glue or that society becomes very unstable. That society can be sold. And it's very easy for that society to be taken over by others. Today you have a situation where Zambian leaders don't care to sell this country. Traditional leaders wouldn't mind to sell land to foreigners. And the story goes on and on and on. We have to keep rethinking, re-engineering that dream of 1964. People that are free, people that love the country. That dream that got Dr. Freddie Membe to become a patriot. To still, even today when he's talking about it, you can see the emotional attachment to this country. We must reinvigorate that. If we don't, we are dead. So the youth are a big item in this. We need a patriotic youth, but that doesn't fall from heaven. It has to take concrete steps in terms of policy, in terms of education, in our everyday lives to recreate this country.
You cannot be a Christian if you are not a patriot.
Kambani pona.
To be a Christian means to be like Christ. Christ had his homeland. Christ had his nation. Christ had a language of his homeland, which he spoke. Christ dressed like the people of his homeland. Christ spoke like the people of his homeland. Christ followed the traditions of his homeland. The ceremonies, the feasts that were there, Christ attended them. He was through and through a son of his homeland. He was a patriot. He loved his people. If we are true Christians, we follow the footsteps of Christ. We try to be like Christ. Again, as I said, love for the homeland is not love for the trees, the grass, the minerals, the rivers, the water. It's love for the people. Being able to pay the highest price for the dignity, the material and moral salvation of those people. And Christ paid the price for that. And not only for that small group of his people, but for all humanity who he came to save. And that's why we socialists, we add another dimension to patriotism called internationalism. We are internationalists without ceasing to be patriots. We are there at the service of the entire humanity without ceasing to be at the service of our homeland. One revolutionary said, humanity is our homeland.
So you mentioned the internationalism. So again, internationalism, let's try to break it down. We can start with the continent of Africa. So if I'm patriotic, I'm Zambian. Do I need to be patriotic to love Congo? Do I need to love Malawi or to love the people of Malawi the same way I love the people of Zambia?
Firstly, we were human beings, or we are human beings, before we became Africans. We were first human beings, then we became Africans.
So we have to love.
Then we were Africans before we became Zambians. In that order. We cannot divorce ourselves from the rest of Africa and give it to our forefathers. Give it to those who composed our national anthem. Their vision of who we are. Our national anthem says, Africa is our own motherland. It doesn't say Zambia is our own motherland. It says Africa. If Africa is our own motherland, we have to love the African. We can't isolate or exclude ourselves from the rest of the African.
She says brothers and sisters under the sun.
Yes, these Africans are our brothers and sisters under the sun. So, if they are our brothers and sisters, why should we chase them? We don't have the problems we have today because of the Congolese. No. We don't have the problems that we have today because there are Malawians in here, no.
Or Zimbabweans.
Or Zimbabweans in here, no. Or Angolans in here, no.
Or Rwandese, Burundian.
No, this is their homeland also. This is Africa. If Africa is our own homeland, Rwandese also, this is their own homeland. Congolese also, this is their own homeland, because this is Africa. This is Africa. Yes, we understand their borders. That we didn't create, but we have accepted as our borders. And things have to be managed. But they have to be managed not to the disadvantage of our fellow Africans, but to the advantage of our fellow Africans. To create an orderly Zambia where our fellow Africans also can feel safe and at home.
We have Africans in the diaspora. Brazil, the US, Haiti, Venezuela, Colombia. It's full of Africans.
They never left Africa voluntarily. They were taken there by captors, slave traders. They were taken as commodities. My comrade here, his great-grandmother was taken from Lukulu to the coast of Angola to be shipped as a slave. Managed to escape when she was given the task of collecting firewood. Took some years to come back to Lukulu. He would have found himself in Brazil, or Haiti,
somewhere there,
or Cuba, or Ecuador, or Venezuela, or he would have been a slave in Argentina. Without choice. Those are Africans. They are our brothers and sisters. They are covered by our national anthem. They are brothers and sisters under the sun.
So again, patriotism is not narrow. Patriotism, when you love, you have to love humanity. When you love your continent. This is your motherland called Africa. And Africans, wherever they are, in Zambia, in Congo, in Malawi, in Brazil, these are our brothers and sisters.
And they should not take their money to Dubai. They should not take their money to Bahamas. They should not take their money to Switzerland. They should keep their money in Africa. They should come and invest their money here. And they should be protected as Africans here.
Nigerian businessmen, Ghanaian businessmen, those African businessmen in Brazil,
in Congo.
This is the home for investment. Be patriotic, bring your money to Africa, bring your money into Zambia. It will be protected here. This is your homeland, and this is where that money belongs.
It doesn't belong to Dubai.
No. It doesn't belong to Portugal.
It doesn't belong to Lisbon.
Or to Panama.
Yes.
So, internationalism, again, is about humanity. Internationalism is about us going beyond the narrow confines of our boundaries. We cannot say we are patriotic, but we hate other people, because we hear that. I love Zambians, but I don't love these people. It's narrow, it divides us, it doesn't build a continent, it can't build the virtues of humanity. It's a very dangerous thing, and the only ones that benefit from that are those that want to see us divided, are those that want to see us still in the confines of 1885, that is, with the ones you call Bantustans that we have today.
We cannot be cynical about the issue of patriotism, both in these small territories called Bantustans and on the continent itself and the diaspora of the continent. Societies have never been built by cynics. Communities have never been built by cynics. We have to overcome cynicism. African unity is possible. we can unite in our diversities, in our complexities, and we are stronger as Africans united.
Wonderful. There's an issue of culture. Culture in terms of something called African culture. And again, culture is very dynamic. So you can't pinpoint on one thing. What is it that's African culture? Is it a culture of 200 years ago or 300 years ago? What is it about it? So there's a traditional elements to culture. But culture is also what you are creating in your daily lives. And then there's another concept called cultural imperialism. So what is that? That's where the dominant powers, your slave masters, basically put their culture in your heads. You become a copycat, you become a parrot, and you start imitating and living on a daily basis like your slave masters. And part of non-liberation, part of not being patriotic, is actually accepting that culture you're given by your slave master wholly without questioning. Of course, you cannot throw everything that comes from outside, because as human beings, we develop by assimilating, by a process where we fuse in positive aspects that come from outside. But when you are the open slate, you are blank. You have been opened up completely, and everything about yourself is denied. And that comes from outside becomes what you take up. So you become the kitchen or the house nigger, the house slave, who cannot think, cannot act beyond the confines of the thinking and the value systems of their masters. And you see it in everyday situations. Somebody's proudly going to tell you, oh, by the way, I don't listen to Zambian music. So what music do you listen to? No, you know, the latest 10 hits from the UK, 10 hits from the US. You say, okay, I hear you. No, I can't watch Zambian soccer anymore. So which soccer do you watch then? No, big league soccer, this and that, this and that. So I can't eat African food. So which food do you eat if you're not eating African food? You know, I would very much like to eat something for the Bazungus. This is deep-rooted. This is serious. Does it smell patriotic?
One, there's an inferiority complex there.
Wonderful.
When you have an inferiority complex, you have a lesser value of yourself. You don't value yourself at your right worth. You have undervalued yourself. You think somebody else is superior to you. A person who is in that situation cannot be a patriot. We have difficulties with patriotism. It's not different from a racist.
Thank you.
It's not different from a tribalist.
Thank you.
A racist, a tribalist cannot be a patriot.
Wonderful.
Period.
Maybe you can emphasize it once more.
A racist, a tribalist cannot be a patriot. You cannot have true love for yourself and for others if you're a racist, you're a tribalist. And without love for yourself and for others, you cannot be a patriot. You can be something else, but not a patriot.
Wonderful. So let's come to the Socialist Party again, because in a lot of our discussions that we have, we always talk about certain values that guide the Socialist Party. And within those values, patriotism is always highlighted. The first issue about the Socialist Party is we believe in revolutionary transformation of Zambian society. Again, revolutionary transformation of Zambian society, meaning we feel the system that is here today is not patriotic. The system that is here today is about subservient. It's about having a few people running the show with our former slave masters, and Zambians are getting a raw deal from their own country. So we feel economic independence is key, and that's the revolutionary change the Socialist Party wants to see. You have been very emphatic about this issue several times.
The revolutionary change that we want, the revolutionary democracy that we want, the revolutionary patriotism that we want, is the people deciding together, people building together to improve their country, to move their country forward, and thus transform their own lives in fraternal love. And I emphasize in fraternal love. To love your people, you have to make them participate in the lives of their communities, in the lives of their nations. Without meaningful participation, a human being is reduced to nothing. When you are not a decision maker about matters that concern you, you are a puppet of someone. You are controlled either directly or by remote by someone, and your patriotism diminishes. Socialism without increased participation is impossible. I mean participation of our people in their lives. You cannot have socialism without increased participation. And increased participation means increased democracy. You cannot have democracy where people do not participate, where they just go on a certain day in the second, or in a certain Thursday in the second week of August, after every 5 years, to vote. Vote for a person who they even don't know. Vote for a person who has lied to them, who has manipulated them, who has convinced them or intimidated them to vote for them through violence, who has bribed them, taking advantage of their poverty and hunger to buy their votes. That's not increased participation of our people, and that does not lead to patriotism. It leads to alienation.
There's a second issue the Socialist Party is emphatic about, and that's you can't be patriotic if you're not fighting for national unity, for the dignity of every Zambian. And that when you start marginalizing one part of Zambia against the other, you are not being patriotic. And as a Socialist Party, we insist, and we are saying national unity in diversity, but based on the fact that there's equity everywhere, based on the fact that no one is left behind. That becomes our driving force.
You can only achieve that if every human being in this territory is given the opportunity, the right to make decisions in their daily lives. Decisions based on where they are, decisions based on their history, decisions based on their culture. And that's put together what we call unity in diversity. Not every part of this territory is the same. Not every citizen of this country in this corner and that corner live the same way, have more or less the same history. There are some diversities. A nation is created by the unity of those who are found in a certain territory. They can be of different races, of different ethnicities, and they form a nation together. By tolerance, by mutual acceptance, by mutual respect, by mutual accommodation, and by solidarity in all they do.
The third issue about the Socialist Party is that we believe that patriotism has to be encouraged, it has to be facilitated, and all action must be undertaken to educate our people along patriotic lines. As a party, we spend quite a lot of time, both time in terms of our activities, but also time in terms of just paying attention and investing resources in the education of our members, education of our leaders. So we ensure that every member of the Socialist Party undergoes some training, and part of that training has patriotism in it. We have training that talks about Zambian history. There's no way you can be a Zambian patriot without knowing where Zambia has come from, without knowing the origins of Zambia and where it is today. There's no way you're going to be a patriot of this country without knowing who the class enemies and the damage imperialism has done to this country and continues to do. Because at the end of the day, you are listening a lot to a diet of news, of social media that is led by our former slave masters. So what our young people know today, what most people are aware of today, is the information that is carefully selected and put out there in the public domain, not by revolutionaries, but by the same people that have continued to colonize us for 700 years. And this is the information that is almost like that of a slave. So you are giving information to a slave just to become a good slave. And in the Socialist Party, we spend time to decolonize ourselves, to ensure that our people, our members are aware of the revolutionary transformation that must be there in order for us to have dignified lives. So again, the Socialist Party educates its people. The Socialist Party believes in some form of organization, agitation that is necessary to create those patriots. We are not doing a good thing at school today as a country. The political parties that are in Zambia today, none of them has got a systematic program that instills patriotic feelings and that sense of attachment to this country. And in government, this is going to be a national program.
Patriotism is a virtue. It is a virtue. Virtues have to be nourished, have to be nurtured. Whereas vice springs out on its own, spreads on its own, sprouts on its own, virtues have to be nurtured.
Inculcated.
They have to be inculcated. They have to be cultivated. If you don't teach your children the virtues that make them better human beings, that make them better Christians, that make them better patriots, you will not get those virtues no matter how much you want them. They have to be inculcated, they have to be nurtured. Socialism is anchored on values, on virtues. And the virtue of patriotism is combined with the virtues of equity, humility, honesty, solidarity. And they have to be worked on continually because they are counter to values that are very strong, that have been inculcated by the system that dehumanized us for 700 years. The virtues of capitalism, of individualism, of unbridled consumerism, unbridled competition. These run counter. The most strongest value, the most important value of capitalism today is individualism. Me this, I this. There's nothing about equity. There's nothing about collectivism. And we are bombarded with these values today like nothing else. Whether we look at sports, we look at other cultural activities, we look at politics, Hollywood. A soccer team with 11 players and a few on the bench only talks about one person. It will be Messi, Ronaldo, and this one and that one. as if they can play a game and win it on their own. Who is Messi on his own? Who is Ronaldo on his own, without the goalkeeper, without the defenders, without the midfield players?
Without the coach.
Without the coach. Without some people managing the kit, the transport for the team, and so on. But that's what capitalism teaches us. Under capitalism, the only person who matters in the Socialist Party is Fred Membe. But can Fred Membe run the Socialist Party on his own?
He becomes the MacGyver.
He's the MacGyver, the Samson. We are not looking for a single MacGyver under socialism. We are not looking for a single genius, for a single Ronaldo, for a single Messi, for a single Carlo. We are looking for a collective Carlo, a collective Messi, a collective MacGyver. We are not looking for a single Barry to fix the things. We are looking for a collective Barry.
And that includes the people of Zambia and the consultations with the masses at different levels.
Yes, with all the authentic leaders of our people, because people usually are represented by leaders, they act through their leaders. Once you stop talking to the leaders of the people, you are excluding those people. No matter how much you say you are consulting with the people, people are led. Leaders lead. Of course, in the end, the people govern. Info mushitunguru lafye abateka abachitefintu bantu.
Our manifesto, our contract, social contract with the Zambians is about justice, equity and peace.
Without justice, there can be no peace. Without justice, you can't talk about equity. Equity only matters to those who have a high sense of justice. Peace without justice is an illusion, a fleeting illusion.
Can there be patriotism where there's no justice, where there's no equity, where there's no peace?
Impossible.
So basically, the Socialist Party manifesto and the three thrusts are about creating a patriotic citizen in Zambia.
Without that, there cannot even be not only a socialist Zambia, but a Christian Zambia. It's not possible. We are talking of Zambia as a Christian nation, but we are not inculcating the values that are needed to build that Christian nation.
You know, as you were talking...
Thieves cannot build a Christian nation.
Yeah.
Tribalists cannot build a Christian nation.
Impossible.
Liars cannot build a Christian nation.
Yeah. You know, as you were talking, as the president member was talking, my mind went back to years back. I think it should have been around 1977 at the University of Zambia. I was seeing this young man who was wearing a cap, the cap that Amilcar Cabral is known for. And we had a conversation, and in that conversation at the end he says, we have to fight hard. There's a lot of work to change our country for the better. So those words were there. He was hardly 18 or 19, but he was already convinced that that was the way to go. He was patriotic at that age. We went on, and at that time, Zambia was endangered. The Rhodesians, South Africans were raiding this country. The students at the University of Zambia demonstrated that they cannot just sit down when the country is being invaded, that they needed to be given arms to go and fight the fascist governments that were in Southern Africa. So different students were allocated responsibilities to guard the vital installations of this country. He volunteered to go and guard the offices of the ANC, of the liberation movements that were here. That was one of the most dangerous assignments that you'd ever volunteer for. But he volunteered. He said they need to be protected. These are the leaders, these are the patriots of South Africa, of Zimbabwe, Namibia, and they need people that defend them also. He volunteered to do that. He was just a teenager, very patriotic, very internationalist. Dr. Fred Membe grew up in a university setting where he was always publishing, where he was always talking about the greater good of this country. He worked, but left work as soon as there was a chance to change the politics of this country. He participated in it. The movement for multi-party democracy, young as he was that time, he risked his job to become part of that change that saw the introduction of multipartyism in this country. He took up a task to write, to inform the people. A task that later on translated or transcended into the Weekly Post and the Post newspaper. There's a lot written about the Post newspaper, but the story of the Post newspaper is yet to be written. It's yet to be written. Most people are yet to hear the true story of the Post newspaper. All they hear is they didn't pay tax. These are lies. The Post newspaper was a political program. It was a political project, and it died a political death. At the center of it was, can we have a Zambia that have got critical voices? Can we have a democratic space that allows people to speak, to challenge authority? He lost many friends that way. He was abused, insulted, threatened, but that didn't stop him. The same spirit of patriotism that he had as a young man, saying, I'm going to defend the liberation forces, that's the same tenacity that he had and he came up with to ensure that newspaper spoke for the Zambians. Not for 5 years, not for 10 years, not for 20 years. This is a newspaper that employed over 1,000 people, and he was at the center of it. Of course, people outside recognized that feat. They recognized his contribution to the freedom of the press in this country, and he got several awards to his name. When the Post was being destroyed, we sat and we said, what next? And his word was, we have to soldier on. It's a new form of struggle. Zambia needs some change. These are not the lives that Zambia should be subjected to. So he was not even talking about himself. He was not talking about the Post newspaper has been destroyed and how am I going to survive? No, that was never the issue. His issue was, let's struggle for a better Zambia. Not about the newspaper. He was being asked, so your money, your income that came from the newspaper. And he said, look here, don't talk about those issues. I was born naked. I didn't have things. These things are acquired. And when I die, these things don't matter. But the lives of our people matter. So again, remember, that patriot of a youth at university, this patriot who participated in changing the Zambian political landscape, the same patriot who stood for years with a newspaper that was being fought by literally every government. He's standing and saying, it's not about me. It's not about my material wealth. He says, what I care for now is maybe my life. So long I'm alive, we'll continue struggling. That's patriotism at its best. So when the Socialist Party was being formed, we sat again and said, Zambia needs social transformation, socialist transformation, and lead the vehicle, the party. He said, no, I don't have to. I'm a socialist, I'm a Marxist. I'll make contributions, I can lead in any position. I don't have to be the leader of the party. It took us 18 months, and we used to have some bit of fights, quarrels, because we saw in him the social capital, the strength, the patriotism that was needed for that transformation of this country and to lead this party. Again, it took us 18 months. So he's not somebody, as some people believe, you know, he has come into politics to revenge, he has come into politics to do this and that. Those are all lies, complete lies. He's not that narrow. He's not that tiny in terms of his thinking. He's a big thinker. Why am I spending time talking about this? Because this is October, this is about national independence, and this is about patriots. So in this discussion that we've been having, the expressions that are there, whatever he has said, it's not something that he has just come up with today. This is a person whose lifelong is mirrored by being a true patriot of this country, by loving the people of this country, by a sense of attachment to this continent and to humanity. And it's always a privilege to have such a comrade, such a brother, such a friend. Patriotism again, we are in October. Some concluding remarks.
Ours is a continuation of a struggle that was started by our ancestors. In this month of October, we think about those patriots who perished in the battle of Kapatamoyo under the leadership of Nsingo. We think about those who resisted capitalist penetration, domination, and humiliation in all the parts of our homeland. In this month, we think about those young men and women who sacrificed everything, including their own lives, who died to give us the independence that we are playing with today, the sovereignty that we are playing with today, the dignity of having a homeland that we are abusing today. We think of all who have stood to defend our homeland, who have fought battles to defend our other homelands on this continent, who have stood strong and courageously to defend Africa and Africans in the diaspora. We also think about all those internationalists from all parts of the world who participated in our struggles for Africa's liberation, for Zambia's independence. Those who lost their lives in southern Angola, those mulattoes who left the Caribbean to come and die in southern Angola, 8,000 kilometers away from their homeland. We think about all the progressive people of this world who are dying defending their homelands the way we defended ours and we are going to defend ours. We think of the Palestinian people. We think of the people of Western Sahara under the leadership of the Polisario Front. We think of those struggling in Haiti. We think, though, of those in Cuba defending their independence and sovereignty. We think of the Chavistas, the Bolivarians, who are defending their independence and sovereignty in Venezuela. We think of all who are defending the dignity of humanity. In this month, we meditate deeply, we reflect deeply on what it means to be a Zambian, on what it means to be an African, on what it means to be a human being, and indeed on what it means to be a Christian, to be a religious person in the authentic sense of the word. In this month, we think of the unfinished work of our national liberation. We think of the poverty, the despair of our people. And again we say, it gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't give up. Don't stop struggling. If we continue struggling, we will win. It's inevitable. A luta continua.